Tonight, Christmas tragedy. Revelers killed after an SUV plows through a parade in Wisconsin.
We heard deafening cries and screams.
Plus, 2 of the 17 Christian missionaries held for ransom in Haiti released. And meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
We need stability and independence at the Federal Reserve.
The president nominates Jerome Powell to a second term as chairman of the Federal Reserve. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Christmas revelry turns deadly. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder. Tonight we are learning more about the Wisconsin Christmas parade that turned deadly after an SUV charged into a crowd, killing 5 and injuring more than 40. 18 of those were children. So far it's unclear what provoked the driver of the SUV, but tonight police do have a suspect in custody and they believe he did this intentionally. CBN's Abigail Robertson has our top story. Abby?
That's right, Jenna. An event designed to provide comfort and joy became anything but, as horrifying new details emerge of the moments after the SUV plowed into the unsuspecting crowd.
That was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
This young girl narrowly escaped tragedy while dancing in the street as the car sped past her.
And then all of a sudden, I heard a loud bang. The vehicle just struck a crowd of people on the parade route. And we heard deafening cries and screams.
A group known as the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies has shared on Facebook that some of their members are among the dead, adding they died filling people with joy and happiness. Survivors like Matthew Rude say the scenes they witness haunt them.
I didn't get any sleep last night. I kept replaying what I witnessed and what could have potentially happened to myself and my children, and just thinking about the families that were affected last night and their lives are forever changed.
Public schools in the area closed on Monday, with many local cheer, band, and dance groups participating in the parade.
There's no evidence that this is a terrorist incident.
In a press conference Monday, the police named 39-year-old Daryl Brooks as their chief suspect and believe he acted alone.
We have information that the suspect prior to the incident was involved in a domestic disturbance, which was just minutes prior. And the suspect left that scene just prior to our arrival to that domestic disturbance.
President Biden expressed prayers and condolences for the victims.
Last night, the people of Waukesha were gathered to celebrate the start of a season of hope and togetherness and Thanksgiving. This morning, Jill and I and the entire Biden family, and I'm sure all of us, pray that that same spirit's going to embrace and lift up all the victims of this tragedy.
Leaders in the community say healing begins now and announced a prayer vigil will be held for the victims later tonight. Jenna?
All right, thank you, Abby. Well, 2 of the 17 Christian missionaries kidnapped in Haiti are free tonight. Christian Aid Ministries said it could not give out the names of the 2 released, why they were let go, or other information, but we're told they are now safe and in good spirits. The 17 members were kidnapped on October 16th by a Haitian gang after they visited an orphanage outside of Port-au-Prince. The gang demanded $17 million for their release. The group includes 16 U.S. citizens and 1 Canadian. The U.S. State Department says it's deeply engaged in securing the release of the remaining missionaries. And here with us now is Dr. David Vanderpool, CEO of Live Beyond, a faith-based aid organization. David, thank you for coming on this evening. I know you were recently in Haiti around the time of this kidnapping, and you also have personal experience negotiating with this same gang for the release of your own team members, including your wife. Tell us what happened.
Well, this is we're really praising God right now that these 2 members of this terrible kidnapping have been released. So that's what I like to start with, that Thanksgiving, that 2 have been released. But this is a very violent gang that has kidnapped these people, and unfortunately, we were exposed to the same gang, the Morozo 400. 2 of our team members were kidnapped, held for 4 days, and tortured for those 4 days, not fed, anything and given contaminated water to drink. So they were very much traumatized by this. So this is, I believe, is 38 days now of captivity for the remaining 15. And it's just unbearable to think what they're going through at this time, especially the children. The things that we went through with my wife, they beat her severely. And we were able to break up the kidnapping so that they did not actually take her from our base, but the attempt was there. So this is a very violent gang, and they've become more and more violent and more bold since the government has collapsed there in Haiti.
Yeah. What does it tell you that this gang released 2 of these missionaries?
You know, it's hard to say. It'd be all speculation. I know that the ministry, Christian Aid Ministries, is not saying, you know, the likelihood is that it was for health reasons, that perhaps the people were suffering from health problems, but it's just pure speculation at this point.
Yeah. David, what do you think might happen to the remaining 15 who are still being held hostage?
You know, we've been in contact with the United States State Department during this entire time, and there are very aggressive negotiations going on right now with this gang. I know the State Department's been very active, and you know, we just need to all be prayerful that that this will be resolved quickly and without any more violence.
Yeah. So it does seem like criminals seem to rule the streets in Haiti, and with the kidnappings, they're up 300% month over month. Those kidnaps, mostly Haitians. Are gang members in Haiti now turning towards kidnapping Americans and other foreigners? Is this kind of the new trend?
It is, and it's a very worrisome trend. It had always sort of been an unspoken rule that the Americans would be left alone. And so with the incident with my wife, that was one of the earliest incidents against Americans that we knew of. And then it has progressed to this very brazen kidnapping of 17 people in broad daylight just across the valley from us. They're just south of us about 5 or 6 miles. And so we know this group. We've worked with this group in the past since we live in Haiti full time. We know the long-term missionaries there. And it's very worrisome that Americans are now vulnerable to attack. Most of the Americans have pulled out of Haiti. The large organizations have pulled their folks out of Haiti, and we as well have, just for that reason.
Yeah. Well, David, Dr. David Vanderpool, we appreciate you coming on tonight so much. Thank you very much, and stay safe.
Thanks for having me.
Well, the chairman of the Federal Reserve will remain in place for a second term. President Biden announcing today he's nominating Jerome Powell for another 4-year term.
Some will no doubt question why I'm renominating Jay when he was the choice of a Republican predecessor. Why am I not picking a Democrat? Put directly, at this moment, both enormous potential and enormous uncertainty for our economy, we need stability and independence at the Federal Reserve.
As one of the most powerful economic officials in the world, the Fed chair's decision caused ripple effects around the globe. The Fed's short-term interest rate has been pegged to 0 since the beginning of the pandemic in March of 2020. But with inflation soaring, the Fed may be forced to raise rates. There are concerns an immediate hike could put the brakes on an economic recovery. Well, Powell's nomination is not expected to cause a big stir, even as another nominee is already bringing controversy to Capitol Hill. Republicans are pushing back against the nomination of Gigi Sohn to lead the Federal Communications Commission, insisting Sohn wants to silence conservative voices. Sohn wants more government control of the airwaves, and her nomination hearing for the FCC could happen as early as December 1st. CBN News senior Washington correspondent Tara Merchner has more.
The White House calls Gigi Sohn a leading advocate for open and affordable communications networks that promote democracy. Conservative opposition, however, may delay acting on the nomination and keep the panel from having a Democrat majority. While the White House states Gigi has worked to defend and preserve the fundamental competition and innovation policies that have made broadband internet access more ubiquitous, competitive, affordable, open, and protective of user privacy, critics call President Biden's FCC nomination his most dangerous yet.
Her name is Gigi Sohn. How petrified should every American be about her nomination?
The FCC wields extensive authority over broadband providers, wireless companies, and broadcasters. Sohn, a communications attorney, is one of two progressive picks for the agency and a longtime supporter of net neutrality.
96% of residential high-speed broadband internet lines in this country are owned either by a cable company or a telephone company.
She previously served under Barack Obama as an architect of the Commission's 2015 net neutrality order, gutted by a Republican-led FCC 2 years later.
Now, everybody likes net neutrality, but what they don't like is the FCC's ability to be a referee on the field and make sure that networks are fast, fair, and open.
She's also hinted at deploying the agency's regulatory power to censor conservative media and revive a version of its mooted fairness doctrine. Republicans, including Senator Lindsey Graham, blasting the nomination on Twitter. GOP critics also point to numerous statements they say are red flags she'll censor conservative media, including this one. For all my concerns about Facebook, I believe that Fox News has had the most negative impact on our democracy. It's state-sponsored propaganda, with few, if any, opposing viewpoints. And after Tribune Broadcasting abandoned its merger with right-leaning Sinclair Broadcast Group in 2018, she said, "Today is a good day for every American who believes that diversity of voices in the media is better for our democracy, and that the FCC should look at whether Sinclair is qualified to be a broadcast licensee at all."
She will go after the licenses of Fox News, of Sinclair, of anybody who disagrees with the Biden administration.
Currently, the FCC is deadlocked in a partisan 2-2 tie, rendering it politically hamstrung. Sohn's nomination comes alongside that of FCC Acting Chair Jessica Rosenworcel. Their confirmations would help President Biden spend billions to expand high-speed broadband in his infrastructure package. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Thank you, Tara. And coming up, a new wrinkle over China's hypersonic missile test that went around the world. Then why some of the best minds are scratching their heads. Welcome back. Well, tonight, new revelations over a Chinese hypersonic missile test that happened over the summer. And now America's top military and scientific minds are wondering how it was even possible. The hypersonic glide vehicle can carry a nuclear warhead at speeds up to Mach 5. And according to a new report in the Financial Times, it can also fire a separate missile at a target mid-flight. The hypersonic weapon demonstrated that capability in July, surpassing the constraints of known physics by firing a missile at a target over the South China Sea while traveling at 5 times the speed of sound. Not only is that capability something no other country has ever demonstrated, it is physically impossible. And joining us now is Gordon Chang, author, columnist, and speaker. Gordon, welcome. We're glad to have you on with us this evening. The United States is trying to understand this technology, and the Pentagon has said it's working on a hypersonic weapon of its own. But Gordon, it really sounds like we're way behind here. How concerned are you?
We are way behind, and I'm extremely concerned. We're at least a half decade behind the Chinese, maybe even more. And they've got a wind tunnel, which we don't have. And with that wind tunnel, the Chinese can make even further developments. The thing here, Jenna, which the American public should know, is that the U.S. was a leader in hypersonic flight. 1967, the X-15 went 6.7 Mach. But American political leaders decided not to develop the technology because we did not want to start an arms race. But unfortunately, neither the Chinese nor the Russians showed the restraint that we were showing, which means that right now we're very behind in a critical technology.
Yeah. Do you think this could lead to an arms race?
Well, it certainly will lead to one because we don't have any answer to this. This hypersonic glide vehicle can drop out of space and incinerate an American city with very little warning. And also because it is orbital, it is going to go over parts of the Earth which we don't monitor. So this is extremely concerning for us.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley, called the Chinese missile test close to being a Sputnik moment, referring to the 1957 Soviet launch of the world's first space satellite. With this new information about this missile's capabilities, does it go beyond that?
Well, it should. And unfortunately, we have a defense secretary who says, oh, no, it's not that bad. I think that what we're seeing right now are, again, political dictates from the White House. Remember, this Chinese weapon indicates an attempt to violate the Outer Space Treaty, which prohibits orbiting nuclear weapons. And this hypersonic glide vehicle only makes sense if it carries nukes. And we have heard nothing from the Pentagon. We've heard nothing from the White House about this intent to violate the treaty. We should not be part of a treaty which the Chinese are developing the technology to violate.
Yeah. Another report from just last week, CBS News said the Chinese hypersonic missile went around the world. Gordon, what does that tell you, the fact that it did go around the world?
Well, this is very much like what the Soviets had. They had what's called a FOB system, a fractional orbital bombardment system. And the Chinese are actually improving on that concept right now. And as I mentioned, that's a violation of the Outer Space Treaty. So right now, we have an administration that's not defending us. And the American people just should be outraged about this. This is the problem that we have seen with arms control treaties, with the Russians and the Chinese are basically violating this. And we're not doing anything to hold them to their obligations. And that means the American public then is at risk. It's at risk of annihilation.
Yeah, it's scary, scary stuff. Gordon, you're foremost expert on this, and we appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna.
Well, this Friday is Black Friday. When we come back, One Mission is calling on Christians to put down their shopping bags and pick up their Bibles. Well, it's Thanksgiving week, and of course, with Thanksgiving on Friday comes Black Friday. And this year, a mission supplying Bibles to 30 nations in Eastern Europe is calling on Christians to open up their Bibles on the mega shopping day. Only a small minority of church-going Christians read the Bible daily, according to a new survey from Lifeway Research. Among church-going Protestants, only 32% read the Bible daily, they say. 12% of those churchgoers said they read the Bible rarely or never in response to that. To try and change that trend, the Eastern European Mission is touting the Bible over the shopping cart this year. And joining us now, Vice President of the Eastern European Mission, Dirk Smith. Dirk, good to have you on Faith Nation tonight. Tell us about this idea and how it came about.
Yeah, thank you, Jenna. Yeah, as you said, Lifeway, that research is just amazing, isn't it? And it's a wonder. It's no wonder we look around at our culture and our society that we're living in, and we kind of scratch our heads and say, why is it so messed up? But people aren't reading. And our thought is, with Good Friday coming, it's the day after Thanksgiving, when those of us who do claim to be Christians, and of course Lifeway's research was amongst Protestant churchgoers, which is the A team of Christians, why wouldn't we, as we're gathered as a family, instead of getting up at the crack of dawn and rushing away, get up and read our Bibles and be thankful. If we start listing the things that we are thankful for in this country, we're not going to even have time to eat our turkey dinner. It's ridiculous what we have in this country. So that's our push. Our tagline says it all, the Bible. We want everyone to get it. And our focus is in Eastern Europe and beyond, nations around Eastern Europe. But it's to this nation as well. And that is, we are so blessed. We have over 500 translations in the English language. Most of the nations that we're dealing with at most have 2 or 3. And how many of us that claim to be Christians even open our Bible? As Lifeway said, I was appalled at that research. I live here in the Nashville area. And it's amazing. 12%, rarely or never. That's crazy.
Yeah. Dirk, why do you think people aren't reading their Bibles?
Well, there's all kinds of, when you talk to people, Jenna, they'll always say, I'm just so busy. But the crazy thing is, another piece of research showed that just last year, just social media alone, forget about Netflix and all the other streaming services we have, the average American spent 2.5 hours per day on social media. and we don't have time. I think it's that we are not engaged. We want to read to prove what we think we already know, rather than opening the text and saying, speak to me, asking the Spirit to come into us and show us something new. That's the difference we see with people in Eastern Europe as we are providing Bibles, and the requests are skyrocketing for God's word over there.
Where are you seeing the most growth in Eastern Europe, Dirk?
Well, probably our hottest areas are where we're putting Bibles in the public schools, and that's at their request. So the nation of Ukraine, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, all of those nations are putting Bibles in their public schools. In the nation of Ukraine, they are actually teaching an elective. It's not a required course, but it's an elective called Christian Ethics, and 99% of the students take the class. And at the end of last year, we've now put Bibles in over 3/4 of the public schools in the nation of Ukraine. But it is growing. The refugees that are pouring into Greece, all the Muslim refugees, it's amazing the numbers that are coming to Jesus. Thousands and thousands coming to Jesus.
Well, Dirk, it's wonderful work that you're all doing, and what a great cause. Open up your Bible this Friday. Dirk Smith with the Eastern European Mission, thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Jenna. You too.
And still ahead, accident turned tradition. A misfired dinner invite turned strangers into friends, and they're still celebrating 6 years later. Finally tonight, a true Friendsgiving tradition. Arizona grandmother Wanda Dench made friends with a teen when she accidentally invited him to Thanksgiving dinner. Dench meant to invite her own grandson, but sent the text to Jamal Hinton. Well, 6 years later, the 22-year-old Hinton confirmed their annual dinner plans, posting on Twitter, "We're all set for year 6. The two will be joined by Hinton's girlfriend, Michaela, and a framed photo of Dench's husband, Lonnie, who passed away from COVID-19 last year. Hinton now refers to Dench as his other grandmother. And that is going to do it for Faith Nation this evening. We hope you have a great start to the Thanksgiving week and a wonderful evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow.